Gisela Stuart has shed light on the constitutional reforms Boris Johnson's government is looking at, in an exclusive interview with Express. At the beginning of January, it emerged that Prime Minister Boris Johnson was planning radical constitutional reforms, including changing the House of Lords. According to The Times, the proposals were drawn up by Lord Salisbury, the former leader of the House of Lords, who is currently advocating with the Constitution Reform Group (CRG) for the Act of Union Bill. The bill, which was said to be on the desk of Mr. Johnson's team, forms a sort of manifesto for the constitutional change that the CRG thinks is both necessary and inevitable. The blueprint proposes a federal structure for the continuation of the Union, establishing the principle of self-determination among all four parts, as well as radical reforms in. While the Prime Minister has not yet said anything regarding the bill, he announced to the House of Commons in January that a committee on the Constitution would have been set up in the spring. In an interview with Express.co.uk, Gisela Stuart, who is on the steering committee of the CRG, revealed that Mr. Johnson is indeed still considering the reforms of the bill. The former Labour MP and chair of the successful Vote Leave campaign explained, the Conservative manifesto mentioned they wanted constitutional reforms. The question is how far they are ready to go. They were looking at the whole spectrum of the bill, not just the House of Lords reform, which is just a minor point. The real big challenge is devolution in England, outside London. We are already slightly seeing this with coronavirus. Public health is a local government function, and I think that Whitehall is realising that a lot of things get delivered on a local level. So I think there is already a more devolved way of operating. In a previous interview, Ms. Stuart also explained why an English Parliament is needed, arguing London is not representative of the country. She said, London is a capital city as well as a big international city. Therefore, it is not entirely representative as much as the rest of the country. While we meet in London, it does not necessarily reflect the regions. If you are Scottish, the Scottish elite in some sense they meet in Edinburgh. Edinburgh with the Parliament, there is a sense of belonging, roots and community there. That's the bit we have got missing in England. It is the feeling, where do we find a collective voice? While London is absolutely magnificent, it is in its structures not sufficient. Arguing why now it is very difficult to reform regional services, Ms. Stuart added, you haven't really. The regional government offices were abolished in 2010. Therefore, we are struggling to find a new regional set-up. What I hope this bill will do is not just have a legal framework, which allows us to end up with better government. I want a better government that serves the people who are elected the better. But also a process of debate on what we think the structure should be. So far, the bill put forward by the CRG proposes two alternatives for a future governance of England. A spokeswoman for the CRG said, the first model is the creation of a directly elected English Parliament to deal with non-central areas. The second model provides for a regional devolution option whereby the UK Parliament would continue legislating both on central matters for the UK as a whole and on all matters for England. It would put the English votes for English laws system on a statutory basis by restriction. The CRG steering committee has been joined by three former First Ministers. In a joint letter written to the Daily Telegraph in October, Lord Jack McConnell, Carwyn Jones and Lord David Trimble, also called for the new constitutional settlement. The three politicians hope that the bill will strengthen the case for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland remaining in the UK. The three former First Ministers stated, the group was formed before the 2016 referendum on membership of the European Union, in the belief that, even then, the UK needed a new constitutional settlement. The changes in constitutional practice as a result of activities in the House of Commons and cases in the Supreme Court, to take two examples, have further undermined what has been hitherto established practice. The events of the last few months have made the need for a new constitutional settlement all the more urgent. The bill would only come into force if approved by a referendum with a majority of votes cast in the UK as a whole at 65% and on a majority in each of England.